You're listening to the Friends Talking Nerdy Podcast Network.
Friends Talking Nerdy. If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim the Nerd coming at you with another week of excitement, fun, hilarity, and feline hijinks. Wow, this is going to be exciting. Sitting next to me in the holy flatulent chair, we have the greatest legal mind in the Pacific Northwest. We have Professor Aubrey. How you doing?
I am so good, Tim. How are you?
Doing good.
So one of the things that's bringing me joy these days are the little kitties.
Indeed. They are still kind of getting used to things around here, but a big sign of improvement for me over this past weekend was Mimsy. She, for the first time ever, got in my lap and took a nap.
Aww.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned, through trial and error, when it comes to cats over the years, the best thing to do is just to go on their terms. If they're scared, if they're a little whatever, or if they're hostile, don't fuck with them. Give them their space. Be as far away from them as they want you to be. When they want the affection, they're going to see that, you listen to them because it's body language. I mean, they don't, like if a cat hisses at you, sure, they may be pissed, but they may be scared. There may be a number of reasons why they're hissing, and you can't take it personally because they're communicating with you. They're stating, stay away. But in this particular case, Mimsy, over like the past week has gotten a lot more affectionate with both you and I. And I believe it was Saturday, she just hopped in my lap and just stayed there. And I didn't have the heart to move her, even though I ended up getting a little sore and stiff. But, thank you back. It was worth it, though.
Yeah, no, totally. I have had Annie come sleep on me when I've been sort of laying on the couch or whatever. And she, I'll not move even though I'm not comfortable so that she won't fall off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's a tosser and a turner as well. So, I mean, there'll be times where she'll be deep asleep, do a turn, and then before she knows that she's fallen to the ground. But, Annie is definitely the extrovert of the feline family here. Mimsy's the introvert, but like with most introverts, once you gain an introvert's trust, it's hard to break it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm I don't know. I always thought I was an extrovert, and then I thought I was an introvert, and now I think I'm sort of ambivert.
I think that's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
A little from column A, a little from column B. You're able to play with the situation better. Fucking bill collectors. Fucking bitches. You're bitches. All of you bitches. Anyway.
Or marketers, or anybody who's calling me at 6:30. Mm-hmm. 6.
Nobody important's calling me then. No, nobody's calling me, period. But anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, the kitties have been much more cohesive, I think, with us. And we have instituted a few new rules for them. So they're not allowed in the bedroom or the bathroom anymore.
Well, not anymore. I think for me, it's a point of them recognizing that, it's our space. Because basically, the reason I first put in the rule, as you know, because she did it to you too, was getting woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning by Annie attacking my feet in bed. And basically keeping them out of the room is going to, in my opinion, let them know that, yeah, this is the human space, and if we let you in here, it is a privilege and a treat. And I think since then, you've had them in the bedroom more than I have since we've instituted that rule. And from what you've told me, they've been complete angels.
They have been.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I was experiencing like there's a curtain that's there's like a decorative thing that you have on the wall that is made of fabric, and the reason I started the rule was Annie was trying to climb up it once, So and that's what I found too with them. Most of the time, yeah, like I do have the tendency to be like a helicopter parent, don't touch it. But ultimately, what I found with them is that. And in pretty much any cat, I mean, it will take time for them to get it, but if they constantly are jumping up on something and you're taking them down and saying no, they will get that, it's not worth my time to go up here eventually. And yeah, I mean, like, there are times to where, like, they've spooked me and I've been like, holy shit, or something like that. But, with a cat, it's just a matter of redirecting. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, and you're very good at that. I'm famously terrible at it.
Well, I mean, you said that you never did any sort of discipline with Sherman, and I would disagree. I mean, but, Sherman and I were cool from day one.
Yeah, totally. Sherman was an extrovert for sure. Mm-hmm. And a very confident cat.
Oh, yeah. Confident, but not asshole confident. Some cats do have that, this is my territory type of deal. And like when, Sherman was introduced to Phil, there was maybe one incident I saw to where Sherman hissed. But even then, it was just the most mild of hissing, and it was just, I don't know you yet.
Don't come near me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying having the cats around.
I'm definitely enjoying the time too, just, being like a kitty parent, taking all the pictures and whatnot. Got to recreate, one of my favorite Chuck Jones cartoons with that was spoofed on South Park with Cartman and Cthulhu of the big dog and the tiny kitten, and the dog is like waving the finger at the kitten like, and then the kitten just starts grabbing it and nestling on the finger and all that, and that just melts the dog's heart. And that's me right now. I'm that big dog.
Right. So these kitties are getting treated really well.
They are, and I think they are both extremely happy right now, too. I mean, that's all you can ask for, really. I mean, and they're cats. Cats adjust quite well. I mean, like I said, I've only had one cat that didn't take the adjustment well, and it was the cat that had its front claws declawed, which, hindsight being 20/20, I should have avoided that cat,
Well,
I live and learn. I mean, it's not like I was looking to, declaw the cat further,
Right. You
Yeah.
were just suffering because somebody else had made that decision.
Yeah, the poor thing.
Poor kitty.
Yeah, but wanted to open up with a lighter topic here because in the Pacific Northwest, in the Portland, Oregon region here, we do have some concerning developments occurring. I know this is something Professor Aubrey brought to my attention. Our good friends at P&W Haunts and Homicides also sent out feelers to us because they made a video on their TikTok, which I reposted, concerning this issue, but it's about 6 women that have been found dead. And the authorities so far have stated publicly that there is no link between these murders, but knowing enough about investigations and just knowing the bloody obvious that murderers watch the news too, it's not like the authorities are gonna, give their hand away by, for just a quick soundbite on TV. If there is a link, they're not necessarily going to say it on the news because they may have some leads if there is a link. Now, again, I'm not implying there's a link, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's saying this is a serial killer. Mm-hmm. I think what people are saying is it's a pattern. And it is a pattern. It was 6 people found in the last 6 months within 100 miles of Portland that had been killed and left in remote locations. Mm-hmm. So there are connections. There are similarities, maybe not connections. We don't know if they're connections or not, but there's similarities, certainly. We don't know how all but one of them has been killed. One of them was murdered with blunt force to the head and neck. But we don't know how the other people were killed.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, without, further, because, we could go on and it would lead into further speculation here, but we do bring this up as just, this is the type of thing, especially for the women out there, sadly, that has to be on your radar, because if it does turn out somewhere down the line that there is a link, then you got to be careful. Even if there isn't a link and we just have 6 different murderers out there, to still kind of keep an eye on, I guess, in terms of, watching yourself. If you're out at night with friends, make sure you park in a lighted area, stay safe out there.
Yeah, and I always find this disappointing when this happens, which is it's murders, right? It is what it is, but we try I think, we as a society have been making an effort, or at least on the left, we have been making an effort to recognize that we have implicit and explicit biases, and that those biases control our behavior. So it could be something like you're walking down the street, black man is walking down the street towards you, you change sides of the street. And, I think a lot of people have been working on what are the implicit biases that implies, right? That you think black men are more dangerous than white men, or you think Asian men are more likely to steal from you than black men, or whatever your sort of race-based feeling is about someone. We've been examining that, right? And sort of saying, let's not make assumptions. But when we say, okay, there's potentially a serial killer who kills women on the loose, women will, I think, turn away from engaging in the community and not talk to people, or not say hello to people, or not walk with confidence because of these facts, right? So that's what bothers me about it. I get what you're saying is that people need to be on edge, but it fucking sucks for people who need to be on edge. Like, it shouldn't be necessary to be on edge.
I get that. Because, let's face it, 6'5" white male. I've been this height for many, many years. Like, I realized in high school that the reason I wasn't picked on as much as I was the fact that I was over 6 feet tall. So the person that wants to mess with me is the person I'm probably going to be really scared about.
Right? Like, you want to mess with me?
Yeah, how dare you, man? Have you seen these guns in action? But yeah, I can look through life through my lens only. I can only imagine what seeing something like this on the news as a 5'5" woman, would make you do. But, like, to your point, when you hear it over and over and over and over again, kind of like Mango Mussolini's presidency, it's just like you do get numb to it and just like,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to do about it. But I do have a personal siren. So that's what I do. It's actually in a box at my house, to be honest. But I do have it, and could use it, and ought to use it, probably.
Yeah, and just like in Face Off, carry a switchblade. When you jab it in someone's thigh, twist it so it doesn't close. Then they'll be fucked.
Yeah, well, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Just stay safe out there, people. And if you have heard the news and you know any information and you happen to be listening to this at all, contact the authorities. Tell them what you know so the families of the victims in question could potentially get some sort of closure. And yeah, we got a small show. The likelihood of that is astronomical. I get it. But I'd rather say it than not,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no need not to say it. Certainly.
Yeah. So, and everybody else, stay safe out there. Stay safe. But we have a very special episode this week. I am very proud of it. Why don't you let them know what it is, Professor?
Okay, so this week we are excited to talk about the 10 principles of Burning Man.
Burning Man. What the hell is Burning Man? Tell the folks at home who've never heard about it what Burning Man is.
Okay, so Burning Man is a week-long city. It only lasts a week. And it's a city of 50 to 70,000 people. And the purpose of this city is to enjoy art, to express oneself, and to live out the 10 principles.
The 10 principles. Are we talking like a hipster 10 commandments here?
Well, maybe. I mean, it's 10 things. It doesn't tell you how you must act. It tells you what did the community that started Burning Man think held their community together? What did they think were their common values? And that's reflected in the 10 principles. And there have been other principles discussed and maybe added to the list over time, including consent and some things that have become more important since 1994, I think, when Burning Man started.
Okay. What is your first experience with either, as you said, Burning Man does have regional gatherings. What was your first Burning Man type of experience?
My first Burning Man type of experience was last year at a regional burn called SOAK, S-O-A-K, which is the one of the Pacific Northwest regional burns. After going to that last year and having a really great time and really seeing and thinking about the 10 principles, seeing them in action and thinking about them myself, I really wanted to go to Burning Man and see, okay, if this was amazing, how amazing would it be to spend a week in a challenging environment surrounded by people who are also choosing to be in a challenging environment where the only goal is to survive and to have a good time.
Yeah, and you actually, if I remember correctly, because of your profession, were able to get to Burning Man without, in terms of not having to necessarily pay a ticket cost, right?
That's right, which was great because I was actually scammed. Yeah, I was scammed, and I bought a ticket. So for $550, I bought a ticket that was not a real ticket and did not get transferred to me. So then I was like, well, I can't go because I can't afford another $500 ticket.
Right.
And luckily, a friend heard that I was looking for a ticket, knew that I worked in the law area, and had heard about a legal observing project. So what legal observing is being present in a location where there's apt to be interactions between the police and people. You're there to watch what happens so that you can be a witness later. You're there to show the police that someone is watching. You're there to maybe give a sense of comfort, but you're really not there for the participants that day or that night. You're really there to document a pattern and practice that then there could be changes around in law enforcement agencies, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's not like you can sue them and make them, do what they ought to do, but legal observers, the presence of legal observers can encourage them to do what they should do. So I got an invitation via that. I let them know I was an attorney in Oregon and that I wanted to do legal observing. And they offered me a ticket for last year.
Well, there you go.
So this is a common way of getting a way to go to Burning Man, because it is difficult, it is expensive, is to volunteer at Burning Man. And volunteering at Burning Man is great for me because it's a wonderful way to meet new people. And I love meeting new people when there's a common cause, where we're all gathered for some purpose. Mm-hmm. Because then I automatically have something in common with people. I can talk about what's happening or what we're supposed to do, or do they know the answer to a question. And that's really how I feel most comfortable meeting people. I'm not one to strike up a conversation with somebody just because they have a cool shirt on or something. For
me, if they don't want to talk about Andre the Giant screwing Hulk Hogan out of the championship... No, I'm kidding. Anyway. Enough of that.
I'll tell you, Tim, something you would love at Burning Man is the Thunderdome, where there is fighting, although doesn't hurt anyone. They use protective equipment, but it is in like a Thunderdome kind of dome that you can climb up on and watch the show, and it has flamboyant MCs and their refs, and it's a spectacle. And you always love a spectacle.
No, I'm all about the subtle entertainment, baby. Come on.
The other thing I think you would like is the actual burning of the man, because it's a huge wooden structure that has been loaded with pyrotechnics, and they just set it on fire. Didn't
somebody a couple years back do this intentionally, but run into that fire?
Yes, unfortunately, someone did during Burning Man. I can't forget what year. Someone did essentially commit suicide by running into the fire. Since then, there has been a new safety division developed by Burning Man org that involves volunteers. So this is something anybody can volunteer to do, which is to be what's called a sandman. So the sandmen watch the crowd. They watch the crowd to see if anybody's going to break the perimeter, if anybody's going to take off running. It essentially really protects the perimeter, protects participants by keeping them out of the danger area of the fire. And so that specific training is provided to those sandmen, and, it's an important, respected, recognized role.
Tango, 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 the perimeter has been broken, tango, something like that.
Totally. We have radios. We communicate. It's a huge operation. Like I said, 50 to 70,000 people gathering in the desert for an entire week. That, we've got our own ways of making sure people are safe.
Well, there you go. Yeah, here's your hug, sir. Here's your dab of acid. Here's... Everything will be better, but...
That is not at all what it is. I feel like you're misrepresenting it, because it's not fuzzy, it's not plur, if you've ever heard of plur in the context of raves.
No.
So ravers came up with this word, plur, P-L-U-R, which stands for peace, love, unity.
I'm getting really high.
Plur, peace, love, unity. Shit, I can't remember what the R is for, but it's like you're a raver, so I love you, and I'm going to hug you, and there's just so much love. That's not... there are those people at Burning Man, but there are also people who are there really, really because they are dedicated to art, or because they have something to bring to express themselves. And all those people are not expressing peace and love and unity. They're using art to express whatever it is they want to express.
Well, okay. And the way they express that is through the 10 principles. Am I correct?
Well, the way they express it is whatever physical manifestation of the art it is, right? Like somebody might, express it through sculpture. Mm-hmm. But to be part of the community that supports that art, you have to adhere to the 10 principles.
All right. So what we are going to do is go down the 10 principles. I will read off the principle and a little bullet point here off of the burningman.org website. We'll have the link for that in our show description here. This will be our most religious episode. If you think about it. because all that's missing here is I imagine it's some hipster Moses coming down with a joint, hey man, got the 10 principles here,
Yeah, I wasn't there when this happened, so I can't say exactly.
It was the 90s. What were the... atrocious shoes of the 90s. Didn't Crocs come out then?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, some guy in Crocs. We're here, man. We're going to talk about this, okay? Anyway, so what we'll do, I'll read the bullet point here, and then what you will do is, because you have experience, I mean, this whole episode here is dedicated for you to tell the experience of Burning Man, or the Burning Man type of culture, really, because, like myself, there are... And yes, defensively, I do deal with things by humor. So we've had over 300 episodes to figure this out, folks. But, I also do like to learn. And this is a way to kind of learn insight into a different culture. Does that mean at the end of this episode, you're going to, rush and try and volunteer or buy a ticket to Burning Man? Not necessarily. But at the end of the day, you're going to learn something, right?
Absolutely. And I believe these principles really are wonderful ways to live your life. So even if you never go to Burning Man, and when you think about your values, it can kind of be hard to put them into words. But if you have something like this, you don't necessarily have to agree with every bit of it, or, set out to make that, happen in the world. But you've got some things to think about in terms of your own values.
You'll have Burning Man in your heart. So let's start off with the first one here. Radical inclusion. Anyone may be a part of Burning Man. We welcome and respect the stranger. No prerequisites exist for participation in our community.
Yeah. So this is a very important principle. Radical inclusion is the idea that anybody can show up and be part of the community because they want to be. It's a community of consent. And one of the ways we maintain that is by not having, certain things you must do in order to be a burner. Being a burner is all about these principles, the first of which is radical inclusion. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be a burner to burn. And you don't have to be a burner to enjoy aspects of the Burning Man culture. But to be a burner, you have to believe that all people are worthy of respect, regardless of how they, regardless of how they present themselves. So there's not like a cool, like I'm coolest. It's really about how can you express something that you want to express.
Are there conservative burners?
There's certainly libertarian burners, and I'm sure there are conservative burners, actually, because burning is freedom and self-expression. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of conservative people who are into the idea that people ought to be able to do whatever they want to. And Burning Man is absolutely the place that I have felt the most free to do whatever the hell I wanted.
Oh, really now? What about Christian burners? Are there Christian burners?
Christian burgers?
Burners.
Oh, Christian I have no idea.
Okay.
None that I've met.
All right. Let's go to the next principle here. Gifting. Burning Man is devoted to acts of gift giving. The value of a gift is unconditional. Gifting does not contemplate a return or an exchange for something of equal value. Do you have a practical story about that?
Absolutely. This is important. Gifting is important. And I think, the types of gifts I'd like to give are gifts of experience or gifts of time. And that is, showing people or including people in an experience that they enjoy, or helping them in some way. So feeding them or offering them comfort, helping them get from one place to another. Lots of ways that you can be useful to other people, especially at Burning Man. Mm-hmm. And so I believe those are important gifts. Other people, have gifts that they give. So stickers, patches. I have a friend who is really into 3D printing right now, and he 3D printed all kinds of stuff for people and just would give it out to everybody you see. There are people who go around and take photographs on Polaroids and then give those as gifts to the people they took pictures of. And just everybody has sort of a unique thing that they bring, and Burning Man really celebrates that in its gifting culture.
Gotcha. Speaking of that, decommodification. I said it right.
Yes.
In order to preserve the spirit of gifting, our community seeks to create social environments that are unmediated by commercial sponsorships, transactions, or advertising. We stand ready to protect our culture from such exploitation. We resist the substitution of consumption for a participatory experience. So we're not going to have like Burning Man sponsored by Axe Body Spray or anything like that. We're not going to have MTV show up.
The Axe Body Spray Burning Man. No, we are not going to have that.
Oh, that'd be horrible for the environment. Think about that. All that Axe body spray, like hair, yeah.
Yeah, so decommodification means, as you said, not having advertising, not having sales, not showing off the branded materials that you have. So one thing you'll notice at Burning Man is that people like to cover up the brands of something they might own, or change it in some way, in a cheeky way that is like takes a corporate logo and turns it on its head. The other thing that you'll notice is there's no brand of anything that is a Burning Man brand, right? There's nothing you can go out and buy that's like, here's the Burning Man t-shirt. No, you can get a Burning Man t-shirt, but only by going to Burning Man and working at Burning Man.
The official hemorrhoid cream of Burning Man.
That doesn't mean... So there's one thing that you can purchase at Burning Man. I'm just ignoring you now, basically. Peanut gallery. There's one thing that you can buy at Burning Man, and that is ice. So there's a whole team of volunteers at Burning Man called Arctica. And their whole job is to make sure there's ice available for sale at Burning Man. It's about $5 a bag or a block, which is a decent price for 10 pounds of ice. Mm-hmm. But it's a ritual to go and get ice. It's pretty far away from your camp. You have to get there and somehow get all the heavy ice back to your camp without it melting.
I think that was a Three Stooges short where they were ice delivery guys, but then they would take the ice, and by the time they get to the house it would be melted, so they would have to rush back to the cart and grab another thing.
Yeah, it could be like that for real. But otherwise you can't go buy a burger, you can't go buy french fries. You either had to bring a burger and french fries with you, or you have to just wander around until somebody offers you some food. And you can be guaranteed that somebody's going to offer you a grilled cheese or some kind of wacky spaghetti or pancakes or donuts or noodles or chicken. I mean, there's just every kind of food, and it's all free.
And that kind of ties into the next principle here, radical self-reliance. Burning Man encourages the individual to discover, exercise, and rely on their inner resources. Relate an experience that you've had to that principle.
Well, the experience I've had related to that principle is that I lived in the desert for 2 weeks, only took a shower for one day, and cooked myself all my food. You have to go prepared to live for however long you're going to be there, which means you have to bring your own water. You can't let any dirty water touch the desert, so you have to manage your own gray water and black water. You have to provide your own shade. It's a desert, so you have to do everything for yourself. And that, I've begun to do these kinds of things joyfully because I appreciate my own self-reliance. I'm proud of myself when I do things that are difficult to do. And so I think that's the best example, just surviving out in the desert.
Cool. All right. The next principle here, radical self-expression. Radical self-expression arises from the unique gifts of the individual. No one other than the individual or a collaborating group can determine its content. It is offered as a gift to others. In this spirit, the giver should respect the rights and liberties of the recipient. What experiences have you had at Burning Man or any of the other Burning Man type of places that fall in line with that. How did you express yourself there?
That's a great question. It was my first Burning Man. So I didn't have an art project. I didn't do like big crafty things. I didn't have like a physical gift to give people. So my opportunities for self-expression were really how I dressed and how I was in the world. Mm-hmm. And, the dressing is sort of the fun part of it. The sort of, how can I express my personality through the way that I choose to dress or make myself up, or what coat I'm wearing, or what my backpack looks like. And so that's some sense of self-expression. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the Instagram version, right? Where people have sparkly clothes on and stuff. Then the other way that I feel like I expressed myself was just how I was in the world, meaning I wanted to be helpful, I wanted to be friendly, I wanted to be welcoming and, just help people out to the extent I could. And in that way, I was expressing sort of who I am.
Nice. Speaking of helping out, the next principle here, communal effort. Our community values creative cooperation and collaboration. We strive to produce, promote, and protect social networks, public spaces, works of art, and methods of communication that support such interaction.
Yeah, so what we're really talking about here with common effort is the idea that Burning Man wouldn't exist. The participants pay $550 or whatever they pay to get there, to have a ticket to attend. But it is an event that is completely turned and put on by the people who attend. So if there's a camp, a theme camp that we might go to that has pancake breakfast and a happy hour with cocktails and grilled cheese late at night, that's their contribution as a camp to Burning Man. Mm. And without those contributions, Burning Man couldn't exist. So it's that idea of being part of a group that's accomplishing something larger than could be done by individuals alone.
So to use this analogy, it's like if Woodstock was put on by the audience?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's go on to the next one then.
Okay.
Civic responsibility. We value civil society. Community members who organize events should assume responsibility for public welfare and endeavor to communicate civic responsibilities to participants. They must also assume responsibility for conducting events in accordance with local, state, and federal laws. And yeah, I'm sure there's stuff that happens, which is why you have legal observers there, which is why you have cops there, blah, blah, blah. But I would like to think that most people that show up there would want to fall in line with this, because the better it goes for everybody that particular year, the more likely it's going to happen the next year, because they wouldn't have to worry about stuff like extra insurance or anything like that.
Absolutely. And so what this really means to me is there's no watchdog. So there's nobody going around to every camp and saying, okay, are these events contributing to the community? And do they comply with federal and state law? Mm-hmm. Right, but it's an ethos of we all have things to teach each other. So I'll give you an example. I'm familiar with a sex positivity camp at our regional burn.
Yeah.
And
Friends Talking Nerdy After Dark, folks. Here we go.
And, that sex positivity camp, gave people opportunities to touch each other, to be sensual with each other, certainly, and sometimes to be sexual with each other.
With their clothes off.
With their clothes off. Yeah. So, the responsibility, I'm sure you can imagine there's a lot of responsibility that comes with having events like that.
Oh, yeah.
You want to, create experiences for people that are non-traumatic, consensual, where people are getting their needs met, or they know they can leave and take care of themselves. They're invited to do that. So there's lots that goes into doing an event like that, where you have to think through, okay, how are people going to be impacted, and how can I help manage that impact? So for example, at the sex positivity camp, you couldn't really participate at all until you went through a FRIES consent talk. So FRIES is an acronym for consent ideas, to help you remember that consent consists of these FRIES.
Yes, and I won't ask you to say what the acronym is. But I get your point, though. I get your point, because, with any sexual situation, you don't know necessarily what's going to make it to where in your head you don't feel safe anymore. And, knowing that you have protection there, helps you out, helps the group out so they can continue and not get kicked out. It helps the overall community out, I would bet, as well. Because, again, if everything is being respected and upheld, there's going to be no problems, Mm-hmm. All right, the next one, leaving no trace. Our community respects the environment. We are committed to leaving no physical trace of our activities wherever we gather. We clean up after ourselves and endeavor, whenever possible, to leave such places in a better state than when we found them. So this is not a movie theater.
No.
Yeah, that's always seems to... I mean, I don't mind.
It's the only place you feel free just walking away from your shit is in a movie theater.
Yeah, I mean, within reason. Like, if I drop some popcorn kernels on the ground, I'm not going to get on the floor and pick them up. Who knows how many Pepsis have been spilled on there. But, am I going to take my empty popcorn bucket and throw away in the trash myself? Yes, I am.
Sure, me too, but that doesn't mean that other people don't leave their shit.
Of course. Well, how does that? Because you've already touched upon it briefly when you talked about your water, that no water can touch the desert. So you had to, the water that you bathed in, you had to keep hold of until you had a place to properly dispose of it.
Exactly, and that place was back in Portland in our bathrooms. So we had to bring buckets and buckets full of the dirty water in our van back with us. Self-reliance doesn't always look romantic. Sometimes it's like crap, like you really have to pee, so you pee in a bucket in the middle of the night because you don't want to walk the 100 yards to the Porto.
So that's what... No, I'm kidding.
So, leaving no trace, which is a different question than what we've been talking about. So, leave no trace just means that matter should not be out of place. So, that means on the desert, nothing should be there except the desert. So no little pop can lids, no little sparkles or feathers, no pieces of paper, no pieces of plastic. And it's part of not only the ethics of Burning Man, it's also part of the permit to allow this to happen, because it happens on BLM land, which is federally owned. Mm-hmm. So, and there are about 3 jurisdictions that cover this area. And so there's lots of law enforcement involved, and if we were to leave it in bad condition, we wouldn't get to have it there anymore. So the Leave No Trace team starts, everybody is part of the Leave No Trace team, because you are supposed to leave no trace on your campsite. So once you get all of your stuff packed up, you're supposed to go inch by inch on your campsite and make sure there is no matter out of place, which is called MOOP. Moop. And then there's a whole team that comes in and does the same thing back over the same piece of property and knows where they find MOOP and puts it on a map that is then published after the event so that camps can get shamed for leaving MOOP. The other thing the team does is, make sure there's no MOOP at the end of the day. Gotcha. So they do that for weeks after the event.
Which involves our next principle here, participation. Our community is committed to a radically participatory ethic. We believe that transformative change, whether in the individual or in society, can occur only through the medium of deeply personal participation. We achieve being through doing. Everyone is invited to work. Everyone is invited to play. We make the world real through actions that open the heart. And we spoke earlier about how you volunteered at the Burning Man, and you said yourself the legal. I mean, not on the show here, but after you came back from that event, that the legal thing wasn't that long of your day. I mean, you volunteered, but it was just like, what, a couple of hours out of your day that you had to do it, and the rest of the time was yours.
Yeah, it was a 4-hour shift, and I did it 4 days of the 14 days I was there. So it didn't really interfere with my experience of the burn at all, and yet it got me a free ticket. And that's what I needed. The other thing about participation is you get other benefits depending on how much you participate. So if you work 60 hours in a week, you get a lot of perks. So they try to encourage participation of everyone, and then great participation, like do more, because it's fun to throw a giant party in the desert.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, I think it would involve the last principle here, immediacy. Immediate experience is, in many ways, the most important touchstone of value in our culture. We seek to overcome barriers that stand between us and a recognition of our inner selves, the reality of those around us, participation in society, and contact with the natural world exceeding human powers. No idea can substitute for this experience. What does that mean to you?
Well, to me, it means nothing is theoretical at Burning Man. Everything is experiential. So, you don't wonder and think about what it's going to be like or plan ahead. Like, you kind of just let experiences happen to you as you're fully immersed in just existing. And without trying to control the experiences you're having. So an example would be, if you have your phone out taking photographs the whole time you're at Burning Man, and your focus is on taking selfies or documenting it, you're not going to have a participatory experience. You're not going to have an immediate experience. You're going to have an experience later when you look at those photos. And you're not going to have a full experience now because you're focused on photos. So that's kind of what it means. Is like, don't get behind something that is going to keep you from being engaged.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed over the past few weeks since I've really cut back my social media usage how, I mean, apart from the cats, how little photos I take. And I think this idea, I mean, and we can blame our phones, we can blame our iPads, because we have access to tools that allows us to take a lot more pictures than we've ever took as a species. And what I've found 9 times out of 10 is that 99% of them don't need to be preserved.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I took some amazing photos at Soak this year, and they really captured moments on film in a completely different way than I experienced it. So it was almost like a second experience, if that makes sense. So I wasn't taking pictures to document anything. It was almost like photos as art, and I took maybe 5 the whole time I was there.
Gotcha. Well, that was the 10 principles of Burning Man culture. As we wrap things up here, what's your final plea? What's the hook that you want to lure in new people into the whole Burning Man experience? Now, you mentioned high ticket prices, but that can be offset with like volunteering and stuff like that. You also mentioned regional affairs. What is the best way for somebody to start if they wanted to immerse themselves in this culture without breaking the bank?
Yeah, there's lots of things you can do. So first of all, it's just being plugged in to your community, whatever that looks like. So if you're on Facebook, for example, look up Burning Man groups. If you're on Reddit, join Burning Man Reddits. If you're on Discord, find Burning Man Discord channels. Like, Burning Man is a thing that exists in all of these places. Wikipedia. There's like a whole Burning Man wiki, right? So learning about what it is one step. Another step is getting to know people involved in the community. So, for example, here in Portland, there are lots of things you could do. One is called Woosday, which is a Tuesday meetup at a particular bar in town. So you could show up for that. Getting involved in your regional is great because it's smaller. They need more volunteers than they usually have. And you can sort of get in that way as a volunteer, which, as I said, is my favorite way too. But, yeah, those are my suggestions, I guess.
Okay. And, the only thing is that, the thing that keep in mind is that there's no tithing. This is not a religious experience, folks. But at the end of the day, from the sounds of it, from what you've said over the time that I've known you, that you've been involved in that culture, coming back from it is almost like a religious experience, just how refreshed and clean and new you feel.
It is definitely a meaningful experience. I haven't ever had a meaningful religious experience, so it's hard for me to make that connection.
Gotcha. All right. Well, but, I mean, at the very least, you got my point.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Okay. I hear what you're saying, yeah.
All right. Well, that was the 10 Principles of Burning Man. As we mentioned, the website that we got the principles from, the burningman.org website, we'll have that link in our show description if you are interested in learning more. And definitely a fun experience if you do love the camping, the self-expression, the getting out, meeting people type of deal. Definitely sounds like a fun experience.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Well, there you go. If this can't get you a free ticket for the next one, I don't know what will.
I wish, man.
Yeah, we'll get there, folks, but it's all about you at home. If you like the show, tell your friends.
Absolutely. Be part of our community.
Yes, we are going to build our community here as much as we can this year because, like I mentioned, I'm ratcheting down my social media usage. It still has some value in some ways, I guess, but, I don't feel the need to post on there every day. I don't feel the need to even promote the show, especially when nobody's listening to the show because of social media.
Right.
But yeah. We're gonna build that community this year. I mean, I think we're in a spot this year to where we can definitely slowly build up to something, and I'm really excited what the fall's gonna look like too.
You know what I think would be an interesting exercise for the show?
What is that?
It would be to come up with our own principles. What are our values? I think we've got some like don't take an uninformed position on something.
Yeah, I mean, there are no absolutes, meaning, me as a progressive saying that all conservatives are bad is just not true. I can still disagree with a conservative and they can still be a good person who doesn't agree with the nonsense that you see on the news. They may be rare, but they are out there,
Mm-hmm. And I think another value of ours is being upfront with what we know and what we don't know and sending people to resources. So yeah, I mean, I think every individual has these kinds of values and every organization has these kinds of values. And I really appreciate that Burning Man spells it out for you.
Indeed. One for the drinking game, folks, but thank you very much for bringing us this topic this week. I know I thought you were going to do it all on your own, so thank you for allowing me to help facilitate this for you.
Yes, thank you very much for being here and being my sounding board.
Yes, I'm sure you just wanted to look at me flex all while you were doing...
Stunning Tim.
Oh, yeah, there we go. And that's a WWE game talk, one of the character names I made for me was Stunning Tim Jousma. Of course, Big Daddy Tim Jousma. I think that's, Big Daddy Tim. That has a ring to it.
It does, Big Daddy Tim. I agree.
Yeah, like if I ever do have real grandchildren and not feline grandchildren, I would love for them to call me Big Daddy, but then I would probably get too into it and wear like a Colonel Sanders type of suit and come in, oh, say there, boy, your Big Daddy's here.
One of my grandfathers I actually called Big Pap. Which is so Southern, right? Like Big Daddy is so Tennessee Williams, essentially.
Yeah. Us in Michigan, in the Midwest, it was grandfather, and it was grandma, grandpa. just boring. It's like the bologna sandwich of names. Nothing fancy. No Meemaw. Nothing like that. But anyway, I think, do you have any final words for us before we wrap it up?
No, that's kind of all I wanted to share.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing. As always, I love being able to talk to you. And I love the fact that you love hearing our beautiful, sultry voices each and every week. Each Saturday, we'll have something in this podcast space to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu. Burn it up, baby.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.